Okay, so I'm Bill Hawthorn. I've been creatively buying real estate for 21 plus years. I've bought hundreds of houses, have helped coaching clients buy hundreds of houses. I've done, I don't know how many rehabs where I fix and flip. I buy them subject to lease options, all kinds of different ways. And today I want to talk about how do you buy a fix and flip and not get killed. Oh my goodness, I've coached so many people over the years, and they buy these ugly houses and they want to turn them into pretty houses. Don't understand why. I mean, I do understand why because I've done them myself. But in my later years, as I'm getting older, I don't want to do all that work. I'd rather just flip pretty houses and not worry about the rehabs. But people still do it. It's a huge market. Of course, all the TV shows make it look promising and all that stuff. So what I'd like you to do is stick with me today on this video so you could get the math that will keep you from getting killed on a rehab. How much money you should spend to buy the house, how much money you should spend to rehab the house. And they're all done without even looking at the house, believe it or not. I do most of my offers on ugly houses before I look at the house. And that may seem amazing to you, but when you see what I'm going to show you, you won't think it's so amazing. You'll think it's probably pretty cool and you should do it. So here's what I'm going to do. I did an event and we charged, some money for it. And in that event, I had a whiteboard. I wrote on the board on the wall so you could see how the math works. Not only did I show you how the math works, I show you the renovations, how I figured that out, and I show you how I sold the properties and made my money, all mathematically. Okay, so I'm going to take that clip from that seminar and I'm going to show that to you now. So we're going to go from this screen. I'm going to flip over into the clip that I made for you. It was a seminar a couple years ago, but it's very apropos for what we're talking about today. And then when we're all done with that clip, I'm going to come back. There's a couple more things I'd like to talk to you about. And then we can scoot out of this video and move on to our next. By the way, if this is your first time seeing me, you found me on YouTube, this is your first video finding me on YouTube, make sure you go down into the description. There's a link there. I actually have a 10-part series of all different kinds of creative real estate that you can do. And if you enjoyed this video or if you want more, you should click on that link. It doesn't cost anything. It's all for free. And you can get into that series as well. If you are in that series and you're in an email and you found this video in an email, I'm going to shock you today, and I have a couple more strategies after this one. So stick with me. So here's the clip. Check it out. Make sure you take notes. Make sure you go slow. Rewind it if you didn't hear something or misunderstood something or your attention went somewhere else while I was talking. Rewind it and play it again, because this could be the difference between you making 30 grand on a rehab or losing 10 or 20 grand. I've seen it both ways. Okay? So here's the clip. Enjoy. Rehab retail, AKA flipping. Hey, sweetheart. These are easy, right? He owes 100. I'm sorry, it's worth 100. He owes 70. Will that work? No. You're right. If it's a pretty house, it'll work. Here's what happens. It's called the Mayo Formula, Ron LeGrand's formula. You're going to take the after renovated value. That means when you call Wanda for comps, she's going to give you comparable numbers on houses that are already fixed up and pretty. And after renovated value is a comparable on a pretty house. You don't have a pretty house. You have an ugly house. She can't do a comparable on ugly house because ugly doesn't usually fit in that neighborhood. It's the only ugly house for any miles around. So it's the only house that's ugly. There's no other comparables. And then there's degrees of ugliness. Does it need a kitchen? Does it need this? Does it need that? One guy says it's 30. The other guy says it's 50. You can't give comps on that. But you can give comps on a pretty house. Right? Pretty house is worth $100K. You're going to take $100K, you're going to multiply it by 70%. How much is that? Then you're going to minus the repairs. In this case, let's say it's 10 grand. 70,000 minus 10 grand equals how much? What does the M stand for? What does maximum mean? The most. So if you have somebody in front of you, how much are you going to offer them? 60 is maximum. You do not start there. Me, I'd start at 48,000. Work my way up. Because here's how I deal with these deals. I know that if I can get it low enough, I automatically building myself a wholesale deal. I always, the first shot right out of the way when I'm negotiating, try to take a rehab retail deal and make it a wholesale deal. I always do that. Because then I can have the option later on, not an option like that, but I have the availability later on of just selling it to somebody making 10 grand. Carl and Sylvia, we have a property that we're buying right now. We're in the middle of buying it. We thought it was worth $200,000. Wanda comes along, lets the air out of our balloon. It's not worth $200,000. She didn't do nothing wrong. We did something wrong. But she lets the air out of her balloon. It's like, we don't know. Is it 140? Is it 160? We're confused. Right? But I think we bought it low enough now that we're talking about just wholesaling it. We're safe. Because we can wholesale it. So we're going to wholesale it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Can you subtract profit?
You could. I do. I don't use this formula anymore. I stopped using it. Me, my rehab deal, and I shouldn't tell you this, but my rehab deal is 55 cents on a dollar. Somebody tells me a house is worth $200,000. I ask them if they're willing to take low 100s. Just automatic, just to test them. Because if you do 70 times repairs, I did so many offers that way, it always works out to be 53%, 55%, 56%. It's always that number. But not all of them are like that. Some of them. That's why the formula is the way it is. Make sense? I am here to tell you, as hard as I can tell you, that if you have not done real estate before, this is the hardest way to make money. Absolutely, the hardest way. It's too much work. You got to negotiate with the seller. You got to find the private money lender. You got to get the contractors. Then you got to sell it. You got to maintain it. There's holding costs. there's a lot of moving parts in this one. Now, do I do them? When they fall on my lap. We just finished one. We just did a whole renovation event up in Manchester. Why did I do it? Because I'm making money. That's why. By the way, when there's an ugly house in the neighborhood, in a pretty neighborhood, who can see that house? Everybody. Right? So let me ask you this question. If you drive down a neighborhood, can you tell me which house has a divorce in it? Yeah, she said she must be an attorney or something. Can you see a house that has probate in it? Can you see a house where there's a brother and sister fighting and they need to sell a piece of property? You can see that? Usually. No. No, it well, we're buying a piece of property right now that there's siblings. There's three or four. How many siblings? This guy, he worked on a golf course, and this piece of property looks better than my house. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is that when you do direct mail, like I'm telling you, you find those situations. A lot of times they're in pretty houses, you can't see them. There's more deals that way than there is this way. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to tell you this, and you could believe me, not believe me, I'm okay with it. Every single one of all those hundreds or maybe thousands of offers that I've given, I'm the only one in the house. I'm the only one in the house. Nobody else is there. You go on the MLS and try to find an ugly house, you're competing with 5 other offers, 10 other offers, 30 other offers. Just hard business, man. Huh?
You're gonna have cash in there too.
And it better be quick. Better be quick. Now, you guys have heard this story before. This is the reason why I stopped doing this. I have to tell this to the new guys, okay? I'm going to tell it very short because we're way behind on time. I was in Waterbury, Connecticut. I was looking to buy a house, right? I had a partner that had plenty of money. No problem. Money wasn't a problem. What was his problem? Most money guys like to hide their money, don't they? Yeah, you guys that have money in this room, you know that. You want to hide your money because you're in this room right now and you got money and there's at least 3 people, and I'm not going to stop my finger, but there's at least 3 people in this room that have money and they want to hide it. Because they don't want the rest of you to know it because they know you're going to come after them for their money. Okay? Got it? My money guy is like that. He didn't want to show off his money. So I get in the house and I say to the realtor, I want to buy this house. I think it was $69,000. Okay? Realtor says, okay, we'll write a purchase sales contract. Okay, good. So we write a purchase sales contract. I said, okay, Bill. He says, what are you going to do for proof of funds? Because it's a bank. I said, you know, I'm glad you asked that question because I have the best proof of funds there is. He says, what's that? I take out a check out of my pocket from my partner and I write a check. What's the name of the bank? He tells me. I write the bank's name on the check and I write it for $69,000. And I give him the check and say, please submit it with the purchase and sales contract. And when the check is negotiated and it clears, send me a clean deed to my lawyer. Is that proof of funds? It's the best kind of proof of funds, right? 3 hours later, he called me back and says, Bill, you're not going to believe this. Bank says that's not sufficient proof of funds. Click. I never looked I never looked back. I never looked at another one of those houses. I don't do that business. That's insane. I wrote him a check for $69,000, told him when it negotiates, send the title to my lawyer. I didn't say tomorrow, next week, just contact my lawyer. What's the bank going to do? Steal my $69,000? I don't think so. They're a bank. They're federally regulated. They're not going to take $69,000. They make $69,000 in a minute. Right? Never look back. By the way, I was looking at those properties 40 hours a week. And I wasn't buying them. Hard business. Okay, so when I put this clip together, I thought it had the numbers I use for doing renovations, and evidently it didn't, so I'm going to explain that to you right now. So basically, what I do, well, let me back up. Let me go back to how I figured this out. So at some point I had done, I don't know, like maybe 12 or 15 renovations, somewhere in that ball, maybe a little more, a little less. And I was trying to figure out my average renovation cost. With a little help from my partner, we talked about it, and we were talking about, how I was working on numbers, and sometimes I would have a contractor go in the house, and I had lost a couple deals because it took me too long to figure out the contractor numbers. So that's when we decided, well, why not go past go in the past with all the renovations we did and pull out the invoices and just see what we spent on an average renovation. So here's what I came up with. So it's a little bit more detailed than this, but I'll give you the general gist of it. So I started doing it by square footage, like $10 a square foot, $15 a square foot, $20 a square foot. And it kind of started off with like $10 a square foot is kind of like washing the house down, doing some yard work, curb appeal type stuff, and that was it. $15 an hour was like maybe we painted something or replaced a rug, and we did everything, as you go each one, like we did the curb appeal and stuff. So we keep adding to what we've already done. So in this case, we would do the curb appeal, all the cleanup stuff, plus we would paint the room or, do some painting or do something with a rug, and that kind of stuff. Then $20 an hour, $20 an hour. $20 a square foot was a little bit more work. So not only did we do cleanup and we did some painting and a rug or something like that, but we would also, like maybe renovate a bathroom. Okay? Then my core number that I use all the time is $25 a square foot. $25 a square foot gets us the cleanup, it gets us the rug, it gets us the carpet, and we'll usually remove and replace a kitchen, remove and replace a bathroom or two, and that type of stuff. Then I would do $30 a square foot I would do all of that, plus I would need to do a roof or a furnace. And then I would do $35 a square foot as if I did everything. I did a roof, a furnace, maybe electrical service, all that kind of stuff. I would fluctuate between $35 and $40 a square foot. Now, you can adjust those numbers, but the most common one I use is $25 a square foot because I know that works on a renovation. And a definition of a renovation to me is remove and replace. Like I just said, I'm going to remove and replace a rug. I'm going to remove and replace the kitchen, the cabinets and the appliances and the floor and the fixtures and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to remove and replace the bathroom. I'm not doing anything more than that, which, by the way, remove and replace, I have a whole story on that, but I don't have time today on a contractor that was trying to get me in trouble one time because he was trying to get extra money. In the end, it kind of stung him because I had all my stuff in order like I always do. But I had to go get permits, or he was trying to tell me I needed to get permits, and I was like, I don't need to get permits. When you do remove and replace, you can replace your kitchen cabinets and not have to get a permit, okay? If you're going to do what I call a renovation, then in that case, that's where you're going to get permits. That's usually where you're moving walls around. That's where you have to get an electrician in there. You have to get a plumber in there. It's called HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. You have to get one of those guys in there. It's a structural type of change. So here's how I do that. If your average house, brand new house in your area, like in my area at the time of this recording, it cost about $120 or $125 per square foot to build a brand new house. Okay? I cut that in half because when you build a brand new house, that means putting in sewer lines and buying the land and all that stuff. We don't have to do any of that. So I cut that in half. So I start at around $60 a square foot because if it's $120 to build a brand new house, it's about $60 a square foot. That's if I'm doing like a renovation where I'm like moving walls, I'm reconfiguring the floor layout. I got to put a staircase in. Anything. It's more than move. It's more than remove and replace. It's like a whole renovation. Okay, so it's actually, it's a renovation, where the other one is a rehab. There's a difference in those words, those words in my office. Okay, so rehab, I do the $10, $15, $20, $25, $30, $35 a square foot. I always start with $25 a square foot, because $25 a square foot is, on a common, 1,400 or 1,500 square foot house is, 30 or 40 grand, and that's pretty common. You could do a lot of damage, or a lot of repairs, I should say, with $30,000 or $40,000 in a 1,500 square foot house. Okay, so whenever I make my offers, especially if I'm on the MLS or if I have a realtor, as I was talking about before in the clip, I don't even do the math anymore. I just it's worth $200,000, and I'll tell the seller, well, are you willing to take low 100s? I won't even give them a real number until I do the math. But it's always the after renovated value times 70% minus the repairs, and I use $25 a square foot until I go out and see it. Now, mind you, I can write a purchase and sales contract and say, this price is due to me, is subject to me going out and looking at the property. So if I have to, I adjust it by $5 or $10 a square foot, and I change my offer. Okay, so believe me when I say my whole life is about the motivation of the seller. I always want to know that first, and then once I get the motivation, I'll sign documents, I'll go for the deal, and then I go look at the house second. So I look at the seller's motivation first, what they're willing to do, how they're willing to do it. I get it in writing, and then I go look at the house. And if the house is not what they say it is, or it's a problem, I just adjust things, or I cancel the deal. Okay? And when you start thinking about your deals that way, your life will change. That's how, people like Kiyosaki said in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he's got to put 100 offers in before he gets a deal. This is the reason why. He's got a realtor that just puts offers in based on these formulas that I just gave you today. And they just put offer in every day. They put 5 offers in. And then sooner or later, one of the banks, that's how you find a motivated seller, one of the banks will say, we won't take 100,000, but we will take 110 or whatever. Then you hone in on that bank because they're technically motivated. You got to realize that a realtor is ethically bound by their contracts or their license to not reveal their client's motivation. So, we're in a whole different arena than a realtor is, because we want the motivation. The realtor wants to hide the motivation. So you need to do things like what I'm talking about, like put a bunch of contracts in with a realtor and have them, just use the math that I'm giving you, that I just taught you today, and just put a bunch of offers in. What I've done is I've given my realtor a check that says her or his, it's a guy, his realty company, and I wrote $1,000 on there and I signed it. He's never going to negotiate that check, because if I get a deal, I just give him another check for $1,000 with the signed contract. I got to meet them to sign the contract anyways, or if I do it electronically, I'll mail them a check, and I'll give them another check. But they always have that check for $1,000 for my deposit, and they just make a photocopy of it, and they just make one offer after another offer after another offer until somebody says yes. Okay, and that's how we find deals. Okay. So I hope this has helped you very much today. I hope these formulas work for you. I hope the concept of you finding the motivation first and then dealing with the house second has kind of settled in a little bit, and it's gotten you motivated. Okay? So this video has a dual purpose. Obviously, if this is your first video with me, you just found me on YouTube today, then go into the comment section, click on the link, get into my free course. It's a 10-part series where I go over the different deal structures I do. It's all the creative real estate that I do, and the math and all these kind of things. And then if you're in that series and you're watching this video anyways, Tomorrow I got some more cool stuff for you. The next video that I'm going to give you is how I bought a house for $260,000. I sold it for $260,000 and made $84,000. And when you see this math, you're going to be like, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's so simple. It's so easy. It's so head calculating that it's actually, it's incredible. So make sure you watch that video when I send it to you tomorrow. And if you're not in that email, just go in that email sequence. Make sure you go click on the link in the comment section of the YouTube video and get there, and you too can have it. Okay? Over and out. I hope you enjoyed everything. Make sure you go back, check this video again, especially the clip. Write down your notes. Get some of those numbers that I just rattled off about the, the $10, $25 and all that. Write those down so you have them on a piece of paper so you don't forget them, and put them in your notebook. Okay? Good. We're done. Whew. That was a lot of stuff. All right. Off to the next video. See you there.